There are great leaders. Then there are remarkable leaders, ranging from handling of the economy to intelligence, from personal background to leadership abilities. All of these qualities make up what's said to be the most powerful position in the world. That's right, an American president. And who are these exceptional human beings? And when ranked, what will the American people think? Yes, there may be some that disagree with the order, but none can deny it takes a remarkable person to lead a country. So with that said, ranking from 20 to 1, we give you the top 5 remarkable presidents of all time. James K. Polk. Polk is considered by many the most effective president of the pre-war era, having met during his 4-year term every major domestic policy and foreign goal he set out before the election. He reached a settlement with the United Kingdom over the dispute of Oregon County. Polk achieved a sweeping victory in the Mexican-American War, which resulted in secession by Mexico of nearly all the American Southwest. He secured a substantial reduction in tariff rates with the Walker Tariffs of 1846. The same year, he achieved the other major goal, reestablishment of the independent treasury system. True to his campaign pledge to serve only one term, Polk left office in 1849 and returned to Tennessee. Most historians rank Polk high due to his ability to promote and achieve major items on his presidential agenda. Ulysses S. Grant. Grant graduated from West Point in 1843 and served with distinction in the Mexican-American War. Upon his return, Grant married Julia Dent, and together they had 4 children. In 1854, Grant abruptly resigned from the U.S. Army. He and his family struggled financially in civilian life for 7 years. When Civil War broke out in 1861, Grant joined the Union Army and rapidly rose in ranks to general. Grant was persistent in pursuit of the Confederate enemy, winning major battles and gaining Union control of the Mississippi River. In March 1864, President Lincoln promoted Grant to Lieutenant General, a rank previously reserved for George Washington. For over a year, Grant's Army of the Potomac fought the Army of the Northern Virginia led by Robert E. Lee in the Overland Campaign and at Petersburg. On April 9, 1865, Lee surrendered to Grant, and that ended the war. During the Reconstruction era, in response to civil rights violations against African Americans, the Civil Rights Act was drafted in early 1870 by Senator Charles Sumner, a dominant radical Republican in the Senate, with the assistance of John Mercer Langston, a prominent African American who established the law department at Howard University to protect all citizens in their civil and legal rights, giving them equal treatment in public accommodations, public transportation, and to prohibit exclusion from jury service. The bill was passed by the 43rd United States Congress and signed into law by Ulysses S. Grant on March 1st, 1875. James Monroe. As a president, Monroe signed the Missouri Compromise, which admitted Missouri as a slave state and banned slavery from the North Parallel. In foreign affairs, Monroe and Secretary of State John Quincy Adams favored a policy of conciliation with Britain and the policies of expansionism against the Spanish Empire, which led to the United States securing Florida and established its western border with the New Spain in 1823. In 1823, Monroe announced the United States' opposition to any European intervention in the recently independent countries of the Americas with the Monroe Doctrine, which became a landmark in American foreign policy. Monroe was a member of the American Colonization Society, which supported the colonization of Africa by freed slaves. And the Liberia capital of Monrovia was named in honoring him following his retirement in 1825. As president of Virginia's Constitutional Convention in the fall of 1829, Monroe reiterated his belief that slavery was a blight, which even as a British colony, Virginia had attempted to eradicate. What was the origin of our slave population, he rhetorically asked. The evil commenced when we were in a colonial state. The acts were passed by our colonial legislators prohibiting the importation of more slaves into the colony. These were rejected by the Crown to the dismay of the states' rights proponents. He was willing to accept the federal government's financial assistance to emancipate and transport free slaves to other countries. At the convention, Monroe made his final public statement on slavery, proposing that Virginia emancipate and deport its bondsmen with the aid of all the Union. Monroe was part of the American Colonization Society, which supported establishment of colonies outside the United States for free African Americans. The society helped send several thousand freed slaves to new colonies of Liberia and Africa from 1820 to 1840. Barack Obama. Regarded as a centrist Democrat, Obama signed many landmark bills into law during his first 2 years in office. The main reforms that were passed included Patient Protections and Affordable Care Act, often referred to as Obamacare, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, and the Don't Ask, Don't Tell Repeal Act of 2010, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, and the Tax Relief Unemployment Insurance Reauthorization and Job Creation Act of 2010 served as economic stimulus amidst the Great Recession. After a lengthy debate over the national debt, he signed the Budget Control and American Taxpayer Relief Act. In foreign policy, he increased U.S. troop levels in Afghanistan, reduced nuclear weapons with the United States-Russia New START Treaty, and ended military involvement in the Iraq War. He ordered military involvement in Libya in opposition to Muammar Gaddafi. He also ordered the military operation that resulted in the death of Osama bin Laden, the orchestrator of the 9/11 attacks. After winning re-election by defeating Republican opponent Mitt Romney, he promoted discussions that led to the 2015 Paris Agreement on global climate change, initiated sanctions against Russia following the invasion in Ukraine, and again after Russian interference in the 2016 United States elections. He also brokered a deal with Iran and normalized U.S. relations with Cuba. Obama nominated 3 justices to the Supreme Court. Sonia Sotomayor and Alega Keegan were the only 2 to be confirmed. Woodrow Wilson. Wilson presided over the passage of the Progressive New Freedom domestic agenda. His first major priority was the passage of the Revenue Act of 1913, which lowered tariffs and implemented a federal income tax. Later tax acts implemented a federal estate tax and raised the top income rate to 77%. Wilson also presided over the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, which created a central banking system in the form of the Federal Reserve System. 2 major laws, the Federal Trade Commissions Act and the Clayton Antitrust Act, were passed to regulate and break up large business interests known as trusts. Upon the outbreak of World War I in 1914, Wilson maintained a policy of neutrality between the Allied powers and the Central Powers. Wilson is generally ranked by historians and political scientists as one of the better presidents. More than any of his predecessors, Wilson took steps towards the creation of a strong federal government that would protect ordinary citizens against the overwhelming large corporations. He is generally regarded as the key figure in the establishment of modern American liberalism and a strong influence on future presidents such as Franklin D. Roosevelt and Lyndon B. Johnson. Cooper argues that in terms of impact and ambition, only the New Deal and Great Society rival the domestic accomplishment of the Wilson presidency. Now that's remarkable. And now that you know what makes them so remarkable, could you please do us a favor and press that subscribe button? Or better yet, just press that like button. Or could you just leave a comment? Even if you don't like us, just leave a comment. If you have something you think we should talk about that's remarkable, please leave them at this email address and we'll definitely get back to you. Until then, have a blessed day. Have a blessed day.